Welcome to AEJuice, and today we're going to take a look at Newspaper Constructor, how to use it, and also a lot of frequently asked questions that can help you get more comfortable with the pack and also just know more on what to expect. Now, one of the bigger questions people are asking is if you have a regular 1080 project, but the title is in 4K, some people are trying to figure out how to change those resolutions. So let me walk you through this process. For example, we've got a 4K project here, and if we go to Window, we'll go to Extensions, go to the AEJuice Pack Manager, we'll go ahead and open it here. And once we open it all the way, we can see Newspaper Constructor right here. Now, there's a ton of options, and let's go ahead and just double click on one of them. Or you can choose to drag it into your sequence over here. Either way, both works. Now that that's been imported, I'm going to go ahead and close this window. And if I just zoom in here, you can see that this is taking up the full width of my 4K composition, which is great. Now, if you decide to import this into a 1080p project right over here, you're going to have to scale that down to the frame size. So instead, make sure that you start with the correct sequence settings when you import it originally. It's a dynamic plugin which lets you resize your footage to the composition size at a click of a button once you import that into your new sequence. But just keep in mind, if you decide to copy this file into a 4K sequence, it's going to be too small. So let me show you. I'll copy that and I'll paste it into the 4K sequence. It's going to be smaller than the 4K file size, and vice versa. I'll copy the 4K into the 1080p. You'll see it's a much bigger file size. So I can always do scale to frame size and it'll scale that to the frame size. So just be aware on what sequence settings you have when you import them, and AEJuice plugin is going to import them according to whatever sequence size you are using. If I go ahead to the first one here, I'll select it and let's go to Window. We'll select Essential Graphics, and you can see here are all the text editors. So I'm going to go right up to the beginning, and you can see here is that sentence here, and you can change it to whatever you want with also the fonts, and you can even choose the weight of that font, and you've got other text parameters here. Now you can choose the types of effects on screen with these sliders here as well, and you can even choose to have an edge blur on or off, which is actually pretty cool. You can change the page color, so let's assume that it's going to be kind of a white page, and then we can change the color of the text to be darker. That's also cool. So you have a ton of options here, which is really nice. So let's go ahead and take a look at another option. So we just went through one of the headlines section, but let's go further down and let's choose a headline with a picture. So this one looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and double click it. That'll import it into my current selected sequence. And then I'm just going to go ahead and close the AEJuice Pack Manager. Now with this layer selected, again, I'll go to Window, I'll go to Essential Graphics, and I've got all of my placeholders here. Okay, so it's very simple to replace this background. I'm going to just click and drag the video onto this, and automatically it's going to replace the background. And if I play it, you'll see that that updates. Now it's a little slow just because of the recording, but it's going to play through just fine once you render out the project. Now, if you decide you want to use a different clip or image, just go ahead and drag the new one on, and it's going to go ahead and update as well. This one is just a picture, so it's not going to move at all, but you're still going to have all of your animation. And again, you've got your text edits here, so you can change the text to whatever you like, as well as the font size, and even the on-screen effects to make it look like a newspaper. Again, you've got your color controls, and even your text position. So let's say you have more text and you want to resize it or reposition it, you can do that with all of these and just adjust it. I'm butchering it right now, but I'm just showing you what you can do with all these settings. Now, let's assume that you decide to use a quote instead. So let's go with this one. This one's pretty good. I'm going to double click it, and you can see that my timeline indicator is over a current clip. So let's see how AEJuice deals with that once it's imported. Okay, so it's imported. I'm going to close AEJuice, and you can see it's just put it above the layer so that it doesn't interfere or cut it off. So it doesn't do that essentially, and you lose the second half of the clip, which is really nice because I actually wasn't paying attention to where the timeline indicator was, but AEJuice Pack Manager does it all for you. Okay, so here's our quote. Let's go ahead and go to Window and go to Essential Graphics. And let's just assume that we want to change who said this. And then we'll just adjust the quote here, and we'll even put quotation marks, and then it's going to go ahead and update there. That's pretty cool. Now you can obviously adjust the size since there's so much empty space here. So let's go ahead and increase the size quite significantly, and great. You can also choose to change your font which I'm not really going to do. And all of these other text parameters will be the rest of the text around this, but I want to reposition this text real quick. So I'm going to scroll down and let's keep going to the second one here and position the text down a little bit. And that looks pretty good. I'm just going to assume I'm happy with that. And the result is pretty cool. Here's one of the frequently asked questions we get about editing in Premiere Pro. A lot of times people want to be able to make the edits they want to their template and be able to use that later on without having to re-edit it altogether to make it look the way they want it to look. They don't want to constantly make those changes every time. So here's what we do. Let's go ahead and open the AEJuice Pack Manager. And what we'll do is just go ahead and select the template that we are editing in our current timeline. Let's go ahead and click Edit. Now you can see that here are all the parameters you can choose to edit instead of having to use the essential graphics. However, in Premiere Pro, just keep in mind you do need to use the essential graphics in order to update the placeholders. That's just how it is right now, but there will be an update later to allow that to happen right here in the AEJuice Pack Manager editor. So once we've made all of our edits here, we can even change the font. So if we click the drop down and let's just pick this one, which might be kind of cool. Let's click out of the box and you'll see that it'll update. And you can, again, adjust all of the other text here. So literally, I can just type in a whole bunch of hodgepodge, and then you'll see that it'll populate here. And then I'm just going to change one more text here, and we'll just do stay creative. Okay, so let's say I'm happy with this result, and I want to be able to save this so that I can use this template next time with all of these changes applied to it. So here's what you do. All you got to do is do Save Settings. Once you've clicked Save Settings, it'll save into a dedicated folder where you choose for yourself, and then you're good to go. So let's click OK. And now what'll happen is if you drag that template in here, or you can again import it like normal, you'll see it'll import right where my timeline indicator is. I'm just going to drag it down here so you can see it. And you'll see that it'll import it with those same settings that we had, which is pretty cool. We don't have to constantly change those every time we add our template in. Okay, so let's take a look and see how to edit and customize this pack in After Effects. Newspaper Constructor is really powerful in After Effects simply because the workflow that After Effects has is far superior to Premiere Pro, DaVinci Resolve, or Final Cut. It just simply is made better for the plugin. Even though the plugin still works really well in Premiere Pro, After Effects, you can get a lot more customization if you are a professional. But if you are only a beginner or simply of just learning the basics of After Effects, you can still get by just fine with this plugin, and I'm going to show you how to use it. The very first thing you need to understand is that when you import the project into your sequence here, it's going to accommodate to whatever project sequence settings that you have. For example, I've got a 4K composition here. So let's go to Window. We're going to go to AEJuice Pack Manager 4. You can see that with all these options here, we can choose to import whichever one you want. So let's just start with this one for now. I'm going to double click it and it's going to import it all by itself. Actually, that was a pretty quick import, which is really nice. So you can see that this sequence has populated the full width and height of this 4K project, which is really nice. Now, if you have a 1080p project, now once that's imported, you can see that it takes up the full width and height of a 1080p project. So you're not going to have any quality loss or any issues like that. All right, so let's take a look and see how you can edit these. I'm going to go to the Pack Manager again, and let's find a little bit more of a complex one. So I would say this one looks a little bit more complex compared to some of the others. So let's go ahead and double click that and we'll import that into our sequence. And once that's imported, let's go and check out, see what it's got here. And already it's got placeholder. This doesn't come with any of the images that you see in the previews. Those are simply placeholders. Okay, so let's go ahead and change the placeholder since that's the first thing we see here. I'm going to double click on this composition and then you can see here are your controls. First, I want to change the first placeholder. Let's just double click on that. And you can see this is where that sequence will be. So let's go ahead and import a video. and I'm just going to lazily scale this down to the frame size. And then let's go back to this and you'll see that that's updated back there. However, there's another one here. We've got a video playing in the background here and it's a little slow, but let's go ahead and adjust the image here. So I'm going to double click here and then we will import our image into this sequence. I'm going to press S on the keyboard and scale this way down. And then we'll go back into that sequence and you'll see that it's updated right here. Well, technically it's actually in here because this is where we do all the editing. And then we've got our text. So let's go ahead and double click this. So you can change any of this text. So you can select this, change this text, basically any of the text that shows up on the screen. So you can literally just copy and paste any of your text that you have in any of your documents or just simply type it all out. So that's pretty neat. Then you go back to your main sequence and it's going to be fully updated. All of the text you see on screen here is completely editable and you can add your own font too. The way you can do that is let's just go ahead and zoom in on one of these texts and I'm just going to select these with Control A. And then if I go to my character here, you can choose whatever font you have. So let's go with that one. And you can change that font. Let's go ahead and make it pretty bold, looking good. And let's just assume I'm happy with that. Cool. That's going to update and you did almost nothing for it. It was that easy. Let's go ahead and do a second example here and just show you a couple of the other templates that you have in the newspaper constructor. Let's see. Let's go with a more news article looking one here. I'm going to double click this to import it. I can also choose to drag and drop it into my composition here. Either way, it does the same thing. Okay. Once that's imported, I'm going to close the pack manager. Let's go ahead and scroll down the timeline here so we can see what's going on. So this is kind of like an Instagram feel here. So it's sort of like a newspaper on Instagram, not Twitter. So let's go ahead and customize it. We're going to double click on this layer. You can see all of your controls here again. You can change the color, paper color. Let's assume you like dark mode instead. That's pretty cool. It's not my taste, but pretty cool either way. And then you can change the text color and so on. But one of the biggest things is the placeholder. So people are going to want to change that by double clicking this. Go ahead and import your video or image or whatever you like. Go ahead and scale that down a bit. And then we'll go back into that sequence. And that's updated my profile picture. And I actually did a video on that. So let's quickly put an image there. Let's just assume I am happy with that. This is my picture profile for Instagram. And you can see that this is above another layer. It's not going to be a big deal because it's only going to show the top layer regardless. So there's going to update my profile picture. That looks pretty good. Let's change the main placeholder here. I'm going to put the video in here instead. I'm going to scale this down like I did before, and you'll see that it's going to populate in just a second. Very quick and easy. Same thing with all of this and all of the text. So the text is going to be in the bottom. Let's go ahead and double click that. And you'll see here that you can double click any of the text and it's going to be available to edit. So if I press enter, you'll see that. And then I can choose to edit maybe this text. Or you can even choose to edit this text. And let's just assume that I also want to change the font. Let's scroll down to a very different font. I'll click that and you can see that completely changes that font and it's going to show up in the main sequence here and updates in real time. This is all done super easy, quick, and extremely robustly, so it looks really good. Let's go with one final example here. We'll go back to the AEJuice pack manager. Let's scroll all the way down to the bottom and let's find one where it highlights some text. So this one looks pretty good. I'm going to double click it to import it. And then let's check out and see what we imported here. Just to avoid confusion, I'm going to close all of these tabs and get those out of the way. So you can see that this text here is highlighted and it also has a camera move, which is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and double click on it. Again, we've got our controls here with all of our text positions and also the color of the highlight, which is right here. So let's just highlight it red instead, just to show you what that looks like. And you can choose where this highlight moves to. So I'm going to change the position here. Let's change it even more. And you can see it's moving to the right. So I'm just going to undo that. Let's assume I want to highlight the first sentence here. I'll do that with the Y position. So I'll drag that up. Let's do -45 maybe even a bit more, -48. And let's assume I'm happy with that. Pretty cool. I can also adjust how far out the highlight goes. So I can adjust the scale X position. So let's just reduce it. Looks pretty good. And you can even, again, change its position. So let's drag this slider to the left on the X position. And we're going to have to keep doing that a little bit more. Great. Now it's just highlighted the first three. I'm going to just naturally assume that I actually put more effort and didn't pay attention to this, but let's just assume I'm happy with that. Great, looks good. And let's go ahead and change the placeholder for the image. Let's drag in a different image we haven't used so far. I'm going to scale this down to the sequence size, and then let's go back into the composition here, and the background there has changed. Once the camera zooms out, you will see a little bit more of it. I can select this main text here, which is the main focus here, and just double click, and you can choose to change whatever this text says, as well as all the other text here. I can double click that and just, paste in whatever text I want. So then if I go to the example right over here, the final result, you'll see what it looks like. And I'll even do a RAM preview by going to the beginning of the timeline, and I'll just do play on the RAM preview tab here. Now this will take a little bit of time for it to generate a RAM preview, so that essentially what you can do is once this is finished, this entire timeline will turn green so that you can watch it without any stutters, glitches, or any lag. So once that's complete, we'll go ahead and drag it to the beginning of the timeline and click play, and you can see what your final result looks like. I obviously did not pay attention to the end there. Simply for the sake of the tutorial, I was going to move quick, but you get the idea. Okay, now let's assume that in After Effects, you want to be able to use the same template over and over again, but not have to change those settings every single time you use it. So here's how we do that. I'm going to go ahead and open the AEJuice Pack Manager. And in our timeline here, let's go ahead and just select this one. So now once that's imported, I'm just going to lower this just so that we can see it here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click Edit with this one selected. So once we've clicked Edit, we can choose two different files here because it's two different results. You can see that it's got two placeholders. So we can adjust what files those are. So let's go ahead and choose it. And I'm going to go with this photo. And then on the second one, I'm going to go with this one. So once we've imported those, it's going to go ahead and update those like you see here. And then let's just assume we want to change our text. You can see that here's that text, and we can just choose whatever font we like. So let's go with this one and assume we're happy with that. And then we can also increase the size if we like, and a whole bunch of other parameters here with the position, scale, and so on. So once we're ready to save this, we'll go ahead and do Save Settings. And once you've saved it in the location you want to save it in, we'll go ahead and click OK. And so when you're in your new project later on down the road, we'll go ahead and go to the AEJuice Pack Manager. We'll go ahead and select this template, import that. And once that's imported here, you'll see that if we scroll down here, that it's not quite updated. So what we need to do is go ahead to the Edit button, and then we'll go ahead and do Load Settings, and we'll go to where we saved it, double click on it or import it. And once that's imported, we click OK. And then you can see, I'll just close this, and that's updated to the template that you already saved it to, which is so cool. So whether it's in Premiere Pro, adjusting what your newspaper constructor looks like, generate whatever look you want, or if you're in After Effects wanting to completely change the entire look as an advanced user or even a basic user, you can get this all done super quick and easy with AEJuice Pack Manager in the newspaper constructor pack. So if you do have any questions, feel free to let us know down in the comments. And if you have any other suggestions for future products, that would also be really great feedback. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget, stay creative.